All right. Welcome back to Spooky Saturdays here with Hannah and ChuBs. Today we're going over Child's Play, the whole franchise. We're going to run over some cool facts and points about the movies, sum them up, and then give our overall view. And there's actually still things in the works when it comes to Child's Play, but we'll get into that. So, um, first, the first movie came out in 1988, and uh, Catherine Hicks, who played Karen the mom, and then you had Chris Sarandon, who was in Fright Night, by the way. He played Mike Norris, the detective, and Alex Vincent played Andy. And these characters would come back in different iterations in the remake, which we'll get to at the end. And Brad Dourif played Charles Lee Ray, who was the voice of Chucky, all but maybe I think one movie. Um, Quick fun fact: Catherine Hicks and Kevin Yeager, who created Chucky the doll itself, who met on set for the first movie, got married a year later. But the overall with that is you have a criminal who uses voodoo to put his soul into a doll to live on because he gets shot by the police, and it's a good guy doll, as Buddy is called, and goes to a small child because and hijinks ensue. By the way, Chucky, for anybody who might not know, was based a lot on the My Buddy doll in real life, which they look almost the same. The overalls and the shirt and the hair and the hat. They just changed a couple things, but that's the basis for the first one, where a kid he's being told by Chucky what to do. Chucky's trying to get his soul into the kid so he can live on, which becomes the premise for almost every movie until the last two. By the way, spoilers as always, everybody. Um, so going from there, what was for the first movie? When did was that the first one you saw? Like you saw it
Mm,
like that?
yeah, pretty much. I was so little um, so I don't remember when I really thought of it. I think I was like 4 or something when I first saw Chucky. Um, but I ended up really enjoying it. And I was a kid like when Bride came out. I
Yeah.
think I was like 8 or 9 or something. And I remember that came out on HBO, and that was a big deal. I loved it.
Yeah. The, by that time, the tone had shifted, but we'll get to that. But um, this was the first one, being 1988, was also the year that Halloween 4 came out, which, like, a lot of big horror movies made a new wave coming in because, like, you had the first Halloween in the late 70s. Nightmare on Elm Street was 84. Then there was a lull where like just countless slasher movies were made and bombed and flooded the market. And when this came out, it was also so different. There were doll movies, before about killer dolls or demonic toys as a movie, but this was the first one where they gave the doll literal attitude and a personality. Like there was many doll killer movies, but the doll never changed its face. It just walked around and did something. This was the
Yeah,
first time they gave
like
it
Twilight Zone and stuff. It just did.
right. This one they gave it an attitude of a person, and it took a lot of people to make that doll work. By the way, now there was uh, one, maybe two actual little people who were in costume for some of the shots, but when it was just like somebody's holding Chucky up, they would, he was his head had mechanics in it. So they did a really good job being the late 80s. So it caught on. It was a really big deal, and it was something new for the horror people. And you know, I was almost a teenager, so I was digging it, and it gave it gave us all something cool to look at. Now, going on.
Well, it was like the Children of the Corn kid that was like the double for Chucky. Did you know that?
In which one? The first one?
It was like
Huh.
the main like leader like in Children of the Corn. They dressed up like Chucky, and he did like the walking scenes and stuff.
Ah, I didn't see
That
that, but
was
I
pretty
believe you.
neat. Oh, that was
No.
pretty neat. And this movie came out like '88, and the VHS came out in '89, and it was $89. So that's pretty crazy. But I guess videotapes were really expensive back then. Cause I
Yeah.
don't.
Well, pre DVDs, so you had no other choice. Now, Laserdisc existed, but those were like the complete, like top of the line of everything. So, but all right, so we jump to 1980, and Child's Play 2 comes out. Alex Vincent returns as Andy. Brad Dourif comes back as the voice of Chucky again, obviously.
Beef was in
Um,
this one, or what's guy who played
uh,
Beef?
I had that Phil Simpson. I have Chud because I know him as Bud the Chud, but yeah, he played. He was Garrett Graham in the movie. Oh no, Garrett Graham was Phil Simpson.
Yeah,
He was
he was
Chud.
the
Excuse
dad.
me, I
Yeah.
read it backwards there. Now in this one, Kyle is a woman played by Christine Elise, who a lot of people probably know from 90210 fame. And I just want to inject that uh, I follow her on Instagram, and me and her have had little message conversations. She's very nice. She's very down to earth. She does a lot of cooking, right, shows on Instagram, and wrote her own book. But she became the person to help Andy because in this one, Andy's mom is in a psychiatric hospital. Now, one of the reasons for that was the original script had Catherine Hicks return as the mom, and they were going to do a court scene, but that was cut, and so her entire scenes were cut, so you don't see her in the movie. So they gave Andy a adult. I don't know if she was an adult by that time, but almost an adult teen character who was Kyle, played by Christine. And this one is mostly well known. Well, first of all, Andy's in foster care in this movie. He has a different set of parents, but those are all cannon fodder for Chucky. Um, this is well known for the third act where they go to the factory who makes the good guy dolls, and so they're in. It's Chucky and Kyle, and it's just rows and rows of the doll in boxes, and then uh, Chucky gets his hand cut off, and he puts a knife in there, and he slowly over the movies turns a little more human as he's in the doll. It's really weird because he'll bleed and he has flesh inside, kind of. And then they electrocute him and they melt him down, but he still keeps coming. So great third act and a nice build up. And at the cusp of being right at 1990, the effects were still a lot, almost all practical because CG wasn't really a thing yet. But one and two, Child's Play 1 and 2 are usually regarded as the best because it's still fresh. They do a good job of implanting the story. It doesn't get too far because, as you'll see later, some of this goes way off track. But what say you about the second
I like the factory scene. That's like one of my favorite parts. And well, in the first movie they said that you have to shoot him in the heart, and they're
one?
like, okay, he dies that way, but obviously he's gonna come back. Um, and then they refurbish him, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I'm trying to think. Oh, I was gonna say like whenever he was like Brad Dourif was recording the death scene in this movie, his daughter was like very little at the time, and she was like, she could hear her dad like screaming, and like she thought he was like getting hurt, so she like started crying and stuff.
mm.
And he had to go in there and calm her down. He was all like, "It's just for the movie. Like I'm okay." Like, but she was like very upset. She's like, "What's going on with my dad?" I thought that was like cute. He's like, "We shouldn't have my daughter out."
Which is funny because she would end up being in the movies in the
Hmm.
last two, but we'll get to that. Yeah. Um.
And then,
Early.
well, Chucky's always been a big part of her life, I guess. She said like
Oh yeah.
when they would have parties and stuff, like her dad would do the voice for her friends and stuff, and the laugh. So
Well,
that must have been pretty cool.
yeah. He's definitely Brad Dourif's voice is awesome, and he would go on to play Sheriff Brackett in Rob Zombie's Halloween. Probably one of the best parts of that movie, but that's all right. So yeah, one and two, we'll just say those are highly regarded in the horror community and abroad as the best. So only a year later, in 1991, Brad Dourif would return as the voice of Chucky in Child's Play 3. But now they Andy is a teenager in military school. He's played by Justin Whalen, and people might know him. He was the star of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and he went on. He did a lot of other like
I think
roles
he's
in
in Serial
TV.
Mom, wasn't he?
Yeah, I saw that and I forgot to write that down, but I figured a lot of people might know the D&D movie because they only tried it twice. So, but he did a great job, and one of the quotes people always use is from this movie, "Don't f with the Chuck." I'm not going to say it all, but people can understand what I'm saying. Also, one of the military students who's almost a love interest. They don't really go that far with it. Is Perry Reeves. And have you ever seen the movie Old School with Will Ferrell?
Hmm.
That's Will Ferrell's wife in that movie.
Oh,
Yeah, like you can see it if you go back and look, but they're all dressed in military garb. So you're like, okay. And then in this movie, Chucky, he's always trying to kill Andy or get inside of Andy, but there's also another kid in this one. But this one is a slow burn, not much
yeah.
to it. They repeat a
Wasn't
lot
really
of stuff.
my favorite, but it's
It,
okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's on the boring side because they were just trying to make horror by the numbers. Like, okay, this happens, and then this kill, and then this storyline, and then Chucky got more vocal. Like in the first two movies,
Well, do you
he
remember
cursed.
the barber that he remember it was like dad from Hellraiser? Do
The
you remember that?
barber.
Like the one that like shaves their hair. He was like, "I'm gonna
Oh,
cut your hair" because he's gonna cut like Chucky's hair and that. That was like one of the parts I thought.
I don't remember that scene, but I trust you. Like it's I'm doing the first couple from memory because I've seen them a million times. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, that
no,
was
that's
like
cool.
one of my favorite parts of the movie is like Chucky doesn't like his hair to be messed with. He's like, "You're gonna cut my hair," so like he kills him.
Well, which
But
is funny
it,
because later in one of the last two movies, they Andy cuts his hair to keep
yeah,
track of him. So maybe
I
that's a
know, but
callback.
I think uh he was upset about it in that movie too. He doesn't like his hair to be messed with. It's just kind of a thing, I guess.
And his hair gets longer and shorter by the movies. It's really weird. Like they didn't go back and look and be like, okay, this is what he looks like completely.
I guess he's kind of more human though. He gets more human-like. But also his face changed so much too. Like
Well, yeah.
everything
Af-
kind of changes about him.
After this one, he's got stitches like Frankenstein, and half his hair's gone. So
Well, his hair was like receding in the first one, like later in the
yeah,
looking more like Brad, I think. So they just kind of were trying to embody him a little bit in the doll, which was kind of neat.
yeah. So not much more to say about three. Like it's still a good watch, and if you're gonna do these movies, watch the first three first, and
Hmm.
that gives you really what you want. Because the fourth movie, we go from 1991 to 1998, and they don't call it. They drop the number four like most horror movies, and it's the Bride of Chucky. Brad Dourif returns. You get the introduction of the beautiful Jennifer Tilly as Tiffany. And in this movie, Katherine Heigl makes her uh, movie debut, and she would go on to do movies like Knocked Up and like like a lot of tearjerker
I
movies. I
don't think
think
that was her first movie though.
maybe not first ever,
She
but
was in
the
like some
big break.
Disney movies or something. I watched like those TV Disney
Right,
movies.
that's what I'm saying. Not
Like it was her
like
big time film, is what you're saying.
big break. Like a lot of people do small things, and then they get into horror movies as a way in. Hence, like Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. John Ritter was also in this movie, who played the chief of police. Fun fact. Um,
Cool.
well, because he didn't do many movies like that. In this movie, Tiffany, Jennifer Tilly, I just say Tiffany, she's the one who rebuilds Chucky. Eventually, Chucky will kill her so he can put her into a doll. where you get the Bride of Chucky, and you get the awesome to me. She changes the doll into a goth doll who smokes. Doesn't get any hotter than that. This movie's kind of like a road trip because they kidnap Jade and Jesse, and Jade is Katherine Heigl's character. Um, by the way, Julia Stiles, you know who that is, right? From 10 Things I Hate About You and
Yeah.
such. She was up for the role that Katherine Heigl was going to do, but she left to go do 10 Things I Hate About You instead. Good move, but just a fun fact. Um, so yeah, and then they kidnap Jade and Jesse because they're going to eventually try and put themselves in those bodies, but they keep killing people along along the way while they drive around this van while Chucky has a gun pointed at him. It's really funny.
Oh yeah, I
And
wanted to, can I like say something real quick?
of course,
Um, Lexus Arquette is in this movie, and he gets
mm,
killed. He gets killed in a bed with by I don't know, like I guess like Chucky kills him with a pillow or something.
oh,
Like he pulls out
oh
that
no,
ring, like that lip ring, and then he like suffocates him. Remember?
isn't that where they have a mirror above the bed and they break the mirror?
No, I'm talking about uh early or whatever. It's like Jennifer Tilly's kind of like hanging out with like, oh, like you're my girlfriend, but she's kind of like, no, you're like we're not
Oh, that
dating.
guy. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sorry.
So I was gonna make it quick. He don't like me, and I got a. I guess like she don't like me because like he's like transgender. Um, got in a little dispute on Facebook. We have a mutual friend. This was years ago though, because rest in peace, Alexis. But I just wanted to bring that up because I thought people might think that's interesting. That I knew him.
That's definitely cool.
I've had a little bit of disputes with that.
Well, this movie tried to. This is where you see the injection of more humor from the story and Chucky. Like the first couple, Chucky curses and he's very violent. And this one, he starts to be more Freddy Kruegerish, where he's cracking jokes before he kills you or making a joke after he kills somebody.
Well,
And
he kind of did that in the second one a little bit, and third one a little. Like he started,
no,
he started getting that way, then it got really heavy and bright. I think.
oh no, that's what I'm saying. It built up to where like they didn't even it out anymore. Like they just thought it'd be hilarious to make
Oh,
constant
did
jokes.
there was also a really goofy theme song by Simon Stokes for the first movie, but it was so bad. Y'all can look it up. It was so bad they didn't want to use it. It was really cheesy. Did you hear it?
I it sounds familiar. I have to
You
go back
probably
and
have
check.
heard it. It's awful, y'all, but it's fun to look up just for a laugh. But I'm glad they didn't use that theme because it was not good.
By the way, Chucky is one of the big top horror people who has no theme. Like you think of
Well,
Michael Myers or
they
Nightmare on Elm
tried,
Street.
but it wasn't
Well,
good.
no, that was I'm saying like a
Yeah.
class. Like you hear the Michael Myers Halloween theme, you know what's coming, or
Mhm.
just the piano for Nightmare on Elm Street. They never even tried to do one for Chucky, where it's the same one every time, which I think is a loss. You could have. She should have tried something, but
There
no,
was a
yeah.
there was a Chucky book. Did you know about that?
I, no, I don't think so.
It was
Doesn't
like a
sound familiar.
novel. It was kind of like what we were talking about, where they got into his childhood in it a lot, and his parents, like his dad left, and his mom was like abusive to him, and that's when he started killing. He killed like she was like his first victim or something. So that's kind of just a little interesting thing to throw
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Sometimes novels hit it big, where they dig deep, but they don't do a prequel aspect. But I know this is one I love to check out just to see. But sometimes they write the novels for the books after the movies.
I think
Like
that's what
it's
it was.
funny.
It was after
Uh,
like the first movie. They made it like back then, so it's old.
okay.
And
Well,
Chucky exists in the same universe as Freddy, Michael, Jason, Leatherface, and I think Pinhead, right?
well, yeah, because in I think it's that one, the last in Bride, where they have a cabinet. and he's looking to kill, and there's a hockey mask and a glove with knives, and they make a reference. They
the
never outright
chainsaw.
say it, but yeah,
Well, it was
well,
obvious because it was like Michael Myers' mask, and it was like
right.
Jason's mask, and then Freddy's glove. And then like they made a reference to Pinhead in it, like whenever John Ritter died, like because
Yeah, because he got nails to the face.
yeah, so he's like that looks familiar to me or something. So that was like
Well, you got to remember we're going to get to it, but some of these movies get completely meta, where Jennifer Tilly is herself in the movie, but her
yeah,
doll still, like, they go really meta. This was like the first step of that. So let's see. Now we go to 2004, Seed of Chucky. And I will say most people do not like this in the horror community, but
I didn't
Brad,
like it. I'll be
yeah,
honest. I love
Brad
Brad, but I didn't love this one.
And Brad Dorff returns. Jennifer Tilly returns. John Waters is in the movie as Pete. People might know him from Hairspray or Crybaby. Um, Billy Boyd is the voice of Glenn, and Billy Boyd was Pippin in Lord of the Rings. This was before any of that happened. Redman is in the movie. Who plays Redman? This is the meta one. Now, let me just run through the gist of it. Uh, Chucky and Tiffany are prop dolls in Hollywood. Um, they obviously still want to be out of their bodies. They have a kid named Glenn who they do show like uh, I'll just say a sperm scene, and it's really weird. It makes no sense, but this movie wasn't trying to make sense. Um, they want to like take Jennifer Tilly, who's as herself, put Tiffany into her, and Redman is going to be what Chucky goes into. That obviously doesn't work out because no goes on. By the way, Britney Spears makes a cameo in this one.
That wasn't Britney.
Well, I meant it's supposed to be her. Like,
No, but like I want to say something. Britney Spears did not approve of that, and she was really upset that they did that. And she said that you need to make a disclaimer that is not me. Like she didn't like it. She was really upset that Chucky killed her. I guess I don't know. And
well, if she didn't approve, they shouldn't have done it. I agree.
yeah, well, um, she was upset because the girl looked so much like her. So she's like, people are gonna think I did this. I wasn't in this like horrible movie or something.
Wow. I just put Britney Spears cameo, but I know like they don't really show like her face or any. It's not
Well,
so
they
you
do
can
show her face.
tell.
The girl is a lookalike that looks an awful lot like her. And Brittany's like, that looks just like me. Like people are gonna think I did this. Like I wasn't in this movie. Um,
Yeah, it's just a car scene, real quick. But
yeah, but in
if
the
she
movie
said
they had
no,
to put a disclaimer that said that's not Brittany. Like it was ridiculous, but
good.
you know,
Well, to continue with ridiculous, uh, Glenn, the son of Chucky, which the movie was supposed to be called Son of Chucky, but there's a reason they changed it. Uh, when
mm,
Glenn looks at his arm, it says "Made in Japan," so he learns kung fu, and Glenn and Chucky get in a kung fu Matrix style fight. That's like the peak of ridiculousness. Now, that aside, there is a thing where it's Glenn or Glenda, and that's why they changed it to Seed because they kind of like he can't deal with the fact that he's like a Ken doll and he's neutered. But I'd like to point out that there's a very famous movie called Glenn or Glenda from 1953. It's an Ed Wood film where
mm,
it's an original take on people transgendering or in that phase, and
I
they,
think
they
Ed Wood he liked to dress like and dress like he liked to do what do you call it
he yeah
drag.
he did everything. He was a weird guy. Did some great movies, but I think that's where they were getting the Glen or Glenda theme from because it's a very famous movie, black and white, like I said
I
from
didn't really
'53.
like I didn't really like the concept. I guess it's just kind of unnecessary. But I think having a baby was kind of stupid. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think they were just throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and like they thought like the rest would be funny, but you know, making Jennifer Tilly a real person shows like I don't think they care too much at that point.
Yeah, I didn't like
So
that either. How it's, oh, we're making a Chucky movie in the movie. Like, that's whenever Chucky I feel like went downhill. Was that movie? It really went.
yeah, it left a sour taste in many people's mouths, and because of that, it would be 9 years until 2013, and The Curse of Chucky came out. Now, this is the first one where Fiona Dourif, Brad Dourif's daughter, shows up as Nika, and Chantal Quinzel's in the movie who plays Sarah. This was the first one to go direct to video. That's how little they had faith after the last one. This
Good
one's
either.
based. Oh, yeah, this one is basically a murder mystery, and um, the Nika's mom in the movie is killed, and they don't know why. And Nika, by the way, is paraplegic in a wheelchair, so they send her to kind of like to this house after the funeral, and they inject like family members. But there's also a niece in the movie who gets a package, which is Chucky, and they kind of set it up where she's going to be the new Andy, but they never really follow through with that. And you find out this one in the next movie that Chucky wants to get into Nika, and it's kind of, I guess, a nod to Brad Dorff, like it's your daughter, and you're still the voice, but it did kind of start to bring some of the movie back to the forefront of being horror. It was less goofy, but again, the fact that Seed drug it down and there was such a long period in between, it went direct to video. It didn't do that well. It's
Yeah,
that well. It's that well with people, but yeah. So, but if anything, if you haven't watched these movies and you watch one, two, and three, you could literally skip to this and the next two, then go back way later because Bride and Seed might sour your taste for it. Or if you could separate that, those two are its own kind of funny thing. But in Curse and the next one, Cult, they address that those things did happen. But Glenn never comes back. Like there's no son ever again. But this one's okay. I'll give it an okay pass. It wasn't that bad. Did
I didn't.
you?
I didn't particularly like the ones that have. It wasn't her fault. I just didn't like them. It was, I thought it was kind of cool seeing his daughter. She looks like awful like him, and I didn't know it was her when I watched it. I was like, she looks a lot like Brad. Like, who is that? So I had to kind of look back. But no, I didn't really care for these two movies. I didn't like Seed. I love Bride, but I didn't like Seed at all. Um,
Right,
I didn't like Colt or Curse very much. But whenever was it Curse? Curse was before Colt, right?
right.
Yeah, that one, like, they did kind of make Chucky scary again a little bit, and that one
Yeah,
came back to be more like the original Chucky, who was scary and just like, psycho killer. Um, so, but there was a little bit of like comedy in that one too, you know,
yeah.
and like I thought like the lesbian stuff was kind of unnecessary, you know.
Well, that's by the way because Don Mancini, who worked on a lot of these movies, I had a hand in writing some of it, became the director of I think it was Seed to Cult. He's gay in real life, and they think he was the one injecting because you get like these weird lesbian kisses out of nowhere in some of these, and you're like, it
Yeah.
adds nothing, and what are you doing? Like, who cares? But
Well, yeah.
nobody.
Well, like whenever it was like Fiona like was Chucky or something, like the Jennifer Tilly scene, I thought it was kind of gross. Like I thought it was weird because like his daughter,
Yeah.
like
Well,
um, and then just like the way, like, it was very odd seeing her so much older. And, like, they're trying to make her look young. Like they didn't have to do that either. It was
nah.
strange. It was
Yeah, it didn't fit. It wasn't necessary.
no, but I
So,
think they want to bring Tilly back and stuff, and
well, she became a big staple of the movie, and a lot of people liked her because she did a good job. And but in the Curse and Cult ones, Fiona Dorff, she's probably the best actor in the movie. I will say, like she stands her own. She
hmm
she doesn't, she gets the main role and runs with it. and being paraplegic. I give her credit for pulling that off, where your protagonist literally can't run. Because a lot of people with Chucky, they'll go just kick him, and it's like, okay, true, I guess. This one, no, she can't use her legs, so she can't do that. But they turned it into a murder mystery and this and that, and Chucky didn't show up like for a while, so okay. But this one was in 2013. Cult came out in 2017. Now, this is the one where they brought back Alex Vincent as Andy, the original Andy. Fiona Durf returns as Nika. Um, I have, let's see, Allison Dawn Dorian is Rachel. In this one, Nika is in a sane asylum. Chucky now has possessed three dolls, and he sends three good guy dolls. He sends them in, and his goal is still to get in Nika. Um, Now, it is implied at the end of the movie that Tiffany is trying to possess the niece so she
Mhm.
could be out of her doll, but they don't ever show what happens with that. Um, this is the one where uh, Andy's character has the head of Chucky, like prime Chucky, in his safe, and he tortures it like every night. And as that happens, this is where Chucky gets superhuman in that doll body as this movie goes on. Let's see, make sure. Yeah, that's the basis of that one. And at the end, now I think this one, by the way, went straight to Netflix. I don't think it was in the theater at all either. Um, Nika does get possessed by Chucky, and that's like the end of the movie where she walks out the insane asylum, and that's Chucky's way of like him getting out, getting in a body. But since this is the last one before the remake, none of this will carry on. Now, there is a TV show supposedly coming for Child's Play at the same time that there is going to be supposedly continuations of the remake, and we'll get to the remake next. But those are two different situations, two different timelines, because the remake, he's not a good guy doll anymore. It's something else. We'll get to that. But so they do change a couple of things. So they could continue this timeline and this stuff in the TV. I say TV. I think HBO Max is where it might show up, but don't quote me on that. It's been a while. Plus, with everything going on, they kind of stopped filming things. But they might continue that storyline, or they could drop it and start over or do something else. And so that's where that ends. And again, this one isn't that bad. I kind of enjoyed Cult. Being from 2017, they did a good job of bringing it more up to date. Again, Fiona Dorff was great. And the gore, by the way, is jacked up on this one. Like showing heads being cut off with the blood and everything. It's not just quick kills, but not everybody enjoys that much gore. But it was a nice return to where, it's not just a stab and a death. You get a lot of cool stuff, but now you have three Chuckies who talk to each other, like, "Oh, you look terrible. Well, you should look at you." And that's where it kind of drops the ball a little bit, where the humor doesn't always land.
Mhm.
Now, that's just me and some other people in the horror community have commented on. But so, what say you about Cult? You didn't like it too much, I think you said.
Mm-mm.
No.
I didn't. I just didn't get like all the Chuckies and stuff too. I'm like, why? Why the hell is there three of them, dude? Like, it just. I just thought it's like now you gotta
I,
kill three of them. Like, what the flip?
I
I
think
thought the.
that
I
was.
well. Oh, I thought it was kind of funny, like the crazy lady or whatever that was like talking to him. And he's like, "I'm
Yeah,
a doll from the '80s," or so. Like that part was kind of funny. Um, but it was just kind of
yeah. Out of all of the older ones, that like if you watch 1, 2, and 3, you can watch like Cult and Curse, and it syncs up better. Like I said, then go back and watch the other ones because
yeah.
they're funny and they matter and it's cool and all. But just like every horror movie, sometimes look at Freddy Krueger's Nightmare. Those got so funny it got stupid and nobody liked it, so they had to fix it. And then that never happened. But Now we're jumping to the
Oh,
good old. Oh, go ahead.
they kind of do that with all of them. Like, um, even like Jason Voorhees, he didn't ever say anything, but he was like funny because he just didn't give a fuck about anybody. He just like straight up just like kill everybody. Like it was kind of funny, you know. Like all the horror figures, they kind of become like a joke in a way at some point, you know.
Well, it depends on how the movie is, but people like Chucky, you got to remember, yeah, Jason and Michael Myers never speak, so it's hard for them to be too of a joke. But when you have Freddy or Chucky, where they do speak, even by the way, Leatherface doesn't speak, but they did the same thing with Hellraiser, where the ones who can speak, it matters what comes out of their mouth, like it really
Yeah.
does.
Well, yeah,
So
like I think we were talking about like Pinhead got really like cheesy and stuff with like the jokes, you know. And at first, like the first movie was like so creepy, you know.
right.
Even the second one was fairly creepy, even though there was some like crappy like special effects. It was still pretty good. But then it just went downhill or something. Like as far as like he just kind of became a joke, you know. It wasn't
Well,
that scary anymore. It's like when they become funny, they're almost not like scary or something. Like you know, they don't feel as much of a threat. I guess to me, I don't know.
no, they run out of ideas. They throw all like they think humor is going to be the way, but they are working at a Hellraiser TV show. I say TV again. I think it's HBO Max, and they're going to try and be like what Halloween did, where it's the first movie and that's it, and now you're here. So that might be good. But anyway, let's get to the big boy here. Now we're at the remake, 2019, and I say remake because it's all different.
I
Um,
don't want to say too much. I haven't even seen this one to be honest. Have you seen
well,
it?
yeah. Here's the highlights, so we can at least talk about it for a minute. He's called Buddy, as not a good guy doll. It's Buddy, and eh, Mark Hamill is the voice of Chucky, which is awesome. Aubrey Plaza plays the mom. Andy is older in this one, but not by much. Like instead of between 7 and 9, he's maybe between 11 and 13. Um, Chucky is completely AI, made by the what's it called? The do I have it written down? It's like the Kesslin Company, which they make everything like they make drones and when they're basically like Siri in the movie. Like you could talk to it and change the temperature of your house, but this is how eventually the bad Chucky, when he becomes bad, can hack in and kill you with the drone from the company. Um, Chucky, I'm gonna call him Chucky. It may be Buddy, but whatever. They're made in Vietnam, and a worker one of the workers making the doll gets fired, and before he rage quits and turns the safety button off, so that's how the Chucky doll can become evil and kill. I don't know why you would put anything like that on it, but that's how we make him evil. Like one worker gets a rage quits, turns the safety off, they ship him out, and then like the buddy dolls are a big thing. Then Audrey Plaza, the mom, works at a department store where they sell the doll. Somebody returns the Chucky of the movie, and there's something wrong with it. Well, she gives it to her son. Then Chucky, as an AI, starts learning as it's playing, and it gets overprotective. There's a scene where they have a cat, it scratches Andy, and being overprotective, it strangles the cat. And again, you don't kill animals in a movie, but it does. Um, there's a group of kids that kind of bully Andy because he's an introverted person, and eventually, obviously, Chucky gets overprotective. Doesn't well, let me put it this way: in the movie, they are watching Chainsaw Massacre 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, my favorite,
Mine
and
too.
as they're watching the movie, Andy and his mom and them are laughing. So when Chucky sees that, that's what kind of makes it to him like it's okay. Like, oh, if I take somebody's face off, it should be just funny. And eventually he gets on top of Andy and is going to do that. So that's the premise. He's all AI. They use some bad CG at times. Like there's real people working the doll, like the old school, but you can tell when it switches to AI.
Hmm.
And so you get the same thing. You get a killer doll who, Andy's the first one to see what's going on. Nobody believes him, but obviously eventually they do. But yeah, to me, the big problem is he's an AI that a fired worker turns the wrong switch and he becomes killer. Now, that's because the fact that there's a TV show and movie coming out, well, I say a movie, this is the movie, but it seems the rights were split where the movie said you can't use the same storyline. So no more voodoo, no more souls. It's AI. And it worked for what it was trying to do. It's new and inventive. I'll give it that. And the kills are cool, but, and it's definitely better than some of the last movies. But the fact that they were using some for the TV compared to this, you can see the difference. So, what do you think when I tell you when you hear an AI instead of voodoo souls?
I feel like it's a completely different thing. Like it should be, maybe it shouldn't even be a Chucky movie because and I was kind of rebelling against like this new Chucky movie because you know, I mean I like Mark Hamill, but it's like uh I always loved Brad Dourif. Like, like I had like a crush on him when I was younger, so it's like he was always Chucky to me. So I was kind of like, I'm gonna wait till this movie's like free before I watch it. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
like it's my Chucky, but the concept's not necessarily bad. I just don't feel like it's like Chucky. It just feels like a something completely different. You know, and I know that the creator of Chucky, he was a little bit upset about this movie because he
Yeah.
had nothing to do with it, and they kind of took his stuff. Like it was like that was kind of his, and it seems like it's kind of stolen, I guess. You know.
By the way, I think Brad Dourif's going to continue being the voice in the TV show,
Mhm.
and that's why they hired somebody else. Now, great they hired Mark Hamill, but you can clearly hear the whole time it's Mark Hamill. But probably to us because it is a different voice. We're used to one voice,
Well,
so
John Lithgow was gonna be Chucky, and I'm just like super glad they didn't do that. I like John Lithgow, but I just don't think he would have been,
no
right for
wait
that role.
for the movie for the remake.
For, no, for the original Chucky.
Oh, huh.
The first one they were thinking of John Lithgow, but
Hmm.
I'm glad they ended up using Brad. I feel like he's quick witted, like he's really funny. Like I feel like he does like the best Chucky, and that laugh is like really iconic.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
If anybody wants to see Brad Dourif's best acting performance, The Exorcist Part 3. Probably his best performance ever, but that's just my opinion.
yeah,
That's my opinion.
that was a good movie. And also One Flew to the Cuckoo's Nest, where he played Billy Whippet. That was like amazing. But that was a great movie.
Well, that one, there's so many other people.
There's so many big stars in that
Right.
movie, but
Not even big stars, but to me, like, you're trying to watch so many performances. His does stand out, and he's great in it. But, like, Exorcist 3, you get to see him and one other person do a lot of dialogue, and it works. But,
yeah, but I know that Brad's like really he loves Chucky, like he loves doing Chucky, like he's super proud of this role. Um so I think that might have been like a hard blow on him too, having somebody take, Chucky, I don't think
yeah,
um
just like most movies when they do this, and it's exactly what you said. If you have this kind of idea, put it with something else.
yeah.
Take that AI idea and don't put it in a child's doll. Put it in like a sex doll, whatever, something more adult. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Well,
they I guess
Brad's he's like, I'm a horror icon, Chucky, like that's kind of his thing. He's
Yeah, it split the community a good bit because as a lot of horror community people like myself, we watched it where it's like, let's just see what they did, let's see what they got. Okay, it's cool, it works, but no, you're stepping on the toes of something great. But again, we the theory is everything that's missing is being saved for the TV show, and it's going to be the old school timeline and the old school people. But we haven't heard much in a while about the show, so we don't know. We'll find out hopefully soon. But they're starting to release more info about like the Hellraiser thing came out like 2 weeks ago, so new info's coming up. Chucky comes up, I'll be the first to let you know, and we can let the great audience know. So now that we've generalized the whole thing, what would you give as a rating to the Chucky franchise or Child's Play? I'll say one. I say Chucky, but
mm, I'll probably give it an 8.5. Just because of like most of the movies are pretty like iconic, and it's like let's just say half and half. Like half of them are good, half of them are trash. I guess they're bad. So I'll give it a high rating because I think looking into those first few Chucky movies we're talking about, definitely like people need to check those out if they haven't seen them.
definitely. All right. Well, I'm going to give it an 8 even, 8.0. And the I'd give it higher if it wasn't for those other movies, and those other movies have to be in continuity. But one, two, three, some of the last two, Cult and Curse, some of them, some of it, and a bit of the remake, good. And otherwise, I give it a high rating because Chucky is part of the lexicon. He's one of the great. Whenever you see somebody wearing a horror shirt, there's Freddy and Jason and Leatherface, and Chucky's usually always on there. And
Mm-hmm.
compared to all those other horror people, it's a doll possessed by a person who's murdering other people. And that's great. Like I said, there's other doll killing movies. Look at Annabelle. She's just creepy or possessed, but her face never changes. This one, you have an attitude on a doll. That made it, and that will keep it a classic. And hopefully they won't screw up with it too much and keep making more ridiculousness, or I hope the remake's the last movie, unless they get the rights back and make a true like Brad Dourif voice sequel. They can keep his daughter, that's fine. But yeah, I'll say an 8.0. It's one of the classics. If you check it out, yeah, start with the first three, and then maybe work your way back after that. Not even the remake, because to me, you got to watch that separate because it's almost a different movie, same concept. But yeah, work your way backwards and leave Bride and Seed last. Bride is actually, like you said, it's good. You can get through it without too much weirdness, but it was the start of the drift away from the whole concept. But definitely high marks, definitely high ratings, and I recommend it if you dig horror. And even if you haven't seen them in a while, as always, go back and check it out. Watch it in the dark with somebody you love or friends. But the first three definitely they are definitely horror, and they definitely can be spooky. So those are the ones I highly recommend the most. So you know.
I agree.
So there you go. There's our look at the Child's Play franchise. Some of the ins and outs, and we just like to give an overview. We're not going to go into super detail because we want you to go see it for yourself. Give it a look. Especially now when you can watch all kind of stuff. Now I don't know where the movies might be playing. I didn't look. I own most of them anyway. So when I rewatch them now, I did have to pay for the remake because it's only been like a year, not even. I think it was in 2019, but I don't remember which part.
I
Might
think
have
you
been
guys can watch
December.
them on Prime if you have Amazon Prime.
There you go.
I believe they're on there. Because my son is like a huge Chucky fan too. I mean, he dressed up like Chucky for Halloween and stuff. Like he loves Chucky. And I still haven't watched that remake with him, but I need to do that. but I'm still waiting to like not have to pay for it, because I don't want to.
Yeah, it's so new. I can't imagine when it's going to be free. But I don't know. A lot of stuff is shooting to video on demand quicker than we thought.
Hmm.
But at least the remake was back in theaters. Cult and Curse were not. So,
Oh, and they had like Mark Hamill. I mean, that's a big time star. He's Luke Skywalker. I mean, he's very iconic. You
and the
know,
Joker is one of the
and
best
the
Jokers.
Joker, yeah, and the Joker like the Batman cartoon. Um, but yeah.
Right. So there's our look to the Child's Play franchise. Now, keep coming back for more because you never know what we're going to bring you. As always, we bring entertainment throughout space and time. And we're going to bring more, especially the horror franchises, as we inch closer to October. I hate to say that, but we are getting close. So you never know what you're going to get. We have a lot of behind the scenes goodies for everybody. So go, if you haven't watched these, go watch them. If you have, watch them again. Then come back and tell us what you think because we're always interested. And throw us some ideas. Give us your favorite horror movies and tell us what you think about Child's Play in the comments because I like to get some feedback outside the horror community itself because we have our own standards. But um, that's about it. I think everybody can run with that, and I hope everybody gets a chance to check them out.
Okay, that was Spooky Saturday, y'all.
That's right.
Thanks for coming, y'all.
Till next time.
Adios.